Welcome to MSL Stories. Friends, if you don't mind, please subscribe to my channel. I have a dream of 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. Let's start the story. On Thursday at 4:12 p.m., my garage told on my marriage. The alert chimed on my phone. Garage entry unknown device connected. I'd installed a cheap sensor that recognized my tools by their Bluetooth tags and pinged me if a new device leached onto the power outlet I'd labeled saw bench. It was a goofy side project, the sort of thing a municipal data analyst cooks up after spending all day chasing numbers for other people. I don't ignore my sensors. I've learned they only scream when something matters. I work for the city of Wakefield, population 38,000 and change, a river town with brick factories turned into cafes where the cappuccino foam comes shaped like swans. I'm 38, a boringly dependable person who cross-references grocery coupons with bulk pricing for fun. My name is Jonah Ricks. I built the workbench in that garage, and I paid for the house that holds the garage, and for the 1,000 small comforts inside it, including the soft linen sheets that still smelled like the detergent I buy in 12-pound tubs, because value is value. I also paid for my wife's creative sabbatical, which had quietly stretched into its third year. Her name is Mallory. Mallory Dean when she wanted to sound like a brand. Mallory Ricks when she needed insurance. She's 32. 6 months after our wedding, she quit her job at a wedding planning firm to build a lifestyle channel. She'd film salad bowls from taller angles and talk to mirrors about lumen counts. She was good at arranging trays and color-coding shelves. She was less good at the dark part. Deadlines, contracts, taxes. I covered those. I told myself that absorbing stress was love. I didn't realize I was shrinking to make room for someone who wouldn't bend. The alert said there was a new device on my saw bench. I checked the garage camera feed. 2 figures, blurry because they were too close to the lens. I could see Mallory's red leather jacket I bought her after she said she'd work harder if she felt iconic. I saw shoulders I didn't recognize. My notifications stacked up. Motion, audio. Though the audio wouldn't play because my daughter Nora was watching a cartoon on my phone, and the video kept pausing to buffer because our Wi-Fi hates it when my life needs bandwidth. I walked home from the bus stop, 3 blocks. I didn't rush. It felt like something important demanded a slow approach, the way a careful driver eases onto black ice. My hands were steady. I noticed that and felt guilty for noticing it. Halfway there, I passed our neighbor, Lila. She's 35, runs a small cybersecurity consultancy out of her house with the tidy porch full of herbs that smell like an apothecary. We met when I helped her carry in a server rack, which is the sort of sentence that makes me sound cooler than I am. She's been my friend for 3 years, funny in a bone-dry way, the person who tells me which privacy settings matter and which are just marketing. "Hey, 6 sensors," she said, using my nickname because yes, I name the sensors like pets. "You look like a spreadsheet swallowed a bee." "Garage alert," I said. "Want backup?" "I think so." We did that neighborly thing where you pretend you're only making casual conversation as you both pace towards something that isn't casual. Her boots beat a quick, clipped rhythm. My heartbeat matched it. I stepped through my side gate. The garage door was down. The side door was ajar. Lila hung back by the herb boxes. I didn't make noise. I pushed the door open with 2 fingers, and the metal creaked like a warning that arrived too late. The workbench light was on. Mallory's jacket lay on the stool. Next to it, a pair of men's work gloves, wide-palmed, the sort I buy for hauling lumber, not the smooth nitrile ones Mallory wears to keep from smudging nail polish. There were 2 sweating water bottles, the way people bring water to say they were there for something wholesome, and there were voices, breathless and familiar, hushed and careless at the same time. I didn't launch into rage. I have a data analyst's brain, and my first instinct is always collection. I lifted my phone, took 3 photos of the workbench because judges like photos taken at the time. I had no judge, but my brain didn't care. I spoke. "Mal?" The shuffling was sudden, the kind of scramble that breaks things in your life even when nothing on a shelf falls. Mallory stepped out from behind the shelving unit where I store the clamps. She was smoothing her hair like a teenager who'd been caught vaping. Behind her was the guy I'd seen twice before, once at the gym where he corrected my squat like he owned the patent for knees, once at our neighborhood block party where he made a game of telling people how to carry propane. His name clicked into place, Curtis Vale. He's 41, owns a little gym with loud music and a discount for first responders. He has shoulders like he bought the medium shirt by mistake and wore it anyway. Curtis lifted his hands like a citizen in a public safety video. I noticed, absurdly, that he does that thing where he flares his fingers to show he has calluses. Some perform toughness the way some people overwater succulents. "Jonah," he said, "let's be cool." My wife stepped in front of him, as if I were a street she had to block to prevent traffic. "This isn't what it looks like," she said, which is a phrase that only shows up after something looks exactly right. "We can skip lines we don't believe," I said. Curtis looked at the tools. "I didn't touch your stuff, man." I felt the click inside me like a deadbolt sliding home. I think our minds add sound effects to finality. "It's my garage," I said. "You chose the most expensive room in our house." "Jonah," Mallory said, "I didn't know how to tell you that I can't breathe inside this perfectness. I need—" She searched for a word with enough roughness to justify the mess. "Presence. I need a man who makes decisions without asking a calendar. I'm starved for something unplanned." Curtis nodded at that, like a coach backing up his client's speech. My mouth tasted like pennies. You know the metallic buzz when electricity arcs? This was that, except inside a person. "I make decisions every day," I said. "I made the decision that kept a roof over your head when you said you needed a year to build your channel and then needed 2 more. I handled your tax notices when your brand forgot to send a 1099. I budgeted our week so you could experiment with 4 kinds of kale. If steady bothers you, we married in opposite directions." Curtis's eyes stayed on my hands, maybe waiting for me to swing. I didn't. I walked to the light switch and flipped the garage lights from the bright strip to the dim task light. Nothing theatrical, just less light for a room that had seen enough. "You have 3 days," I said, looking at Mallory, not Curtis. "Pack what's yours and go. The house is in my name. I bought it before we married, and you signed a postnuptial when we refinanced. I called it a boring document. That's on me for softening the edge. The document is not soft." Mallory's mouth opened. She is a skilled talker. I've seen her sell a chipped vase by calling it patina. But there are sentences life doesn't let you decorate. I left the garage. Lila was by the herbs, arms folded, eyes level. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm recording," which was true and not helpful and all I could manage. "Want me inside?" "Yes." I'd never been prouder to answer a question with a word that clean. I walked through my kitchen and set out cups because our kids would be home soon, and their cups need to be where their hands expect them to be. Nora is 7 and notices the shape of routines more than adults do. Micah is 4 and wants his green cup because it is green, not because it's that particular cup. He'd happily accept another green one if it has a dinosaur. That night I slept on the couch, not because the bed wasn't mine, but because the couch faced the door, and I wanted to feel like the house felt guarded. In the morning, Mallory took the kids to school, saying nothing, and I found myself grateful she didn't try to soak the drive in speeches. My phone buzzed. It was my mother who calls when weather happens. I ignored it. I called a lawyer instead. His name is Brendan Haas. He's 46, has a haircut that says he owns a suit he likes and knows it fits. "Send me the postnup," he said. "Send me anything that proves residency and ownership. Send me the camera files if you have them. Don't share any of that with anyone else. Don't threaten. We'll handle it." "Do I have to apologize for being angry?" I asked, surprising myself with the need to ask. I didn't want an apology for my tone to end up in a court filing like an admission. "You don't have to apologize to me," Brendan said. "Call me if anyone tries to turn your calm into consent." Lila came by with coffee. Not the special roast, just strong coffee that does its job. "I'm going to install a new login on your network," she said. "We'll keep your garage feeds locked. You have passwords, but you also have kids who put stickers on everything. Stickers are for joy, not security. I know enough about the law to not go snooping through devices I don't own, even when they live in my house. I didn't rummage Mallory's phone. I didn't open her laptop. Instead, I kept looking at our own books. 2 transactions jumped out, one labeled as a vendor retainer to a company called Vail Performance, and one cash withdrawal the day after. The retainer was for $4,800. On my notebook, I wrote, "Ask about services rendered." Then I crossed out "ask." I'm done asking. I underlined "document" instead. I sent the bank statements to Brendan and said, "We'll make this about facts." He said, "Good." Lila set up a new router password with a nonsense string that looked like a cat ran across a keyboard. "Don't write it on the fridge," she said. "Take a picture of the paper and then burn the paper, or shred. Burning attracts attention." "Shred it is," I said. When Mallory came back with the kids, she acted like a guest. She hung back in doorways. The kids noticed. Nora, who absorbs emotions through thin walls, asked, "Is Mom mad?" She always asks about anger as if it's a thunderstorm you can dodge by walking on a different side of the street. I'm not mad at you, I said. I'm not mad at Micah. Grown-up things are happening. Like when Mrs. Cooper moved to her sister's house because the roof was complicated? Nora asked. Kids build metaphors out of the news bulletins they overhear. Kind of like that, I said. I wasn't going to script their grief to make mine smoother. My job as a parent didn't get smaller. It just got louder. That night, Mallory asked to talk in the dining room. She wore the jacket again, armor made of color. I need you to not explode this publicly, she said. I have brand relationships. That matters. You have 3 days, I repeated. You can't throw me out like a villain in a silent movie, she said. She always reaches for analogies that make her right by making me classic. I am allowed to be unhappy. You code your life to within an inch, and I can't breathe inside all those inches. You can leave, I said. That's breath. She tried a different tactic. We can go to counseling. Counseling is for people who want to build something. You used my garage to tear something down. My voice didn't rise. I don't yell when I mean it. I called Brendan after to document that conversation. Not because I anticipated court, but because precision is kindness to your future self. Day 2, Mallory took half her closet, the blazer collection that looks like a candy store. She left the wedding album, which told me her sense of what is central had already shifted. She texted me a list of pics for the kids' lunches because she is still their mother, and the body is weird about how it remembers what keeps people small and growing. Day 3, she loaded her car. Curtis drove by in his truck and waved at me like we were neighbors who had finally had time to meet. Lila, from her porch, flicked her wrist the way one does to shoo a wasp gently. The wasp never realizes the grace extended to it. By noon, the house had space inside it I didn't know it could hold. My fridge looked like a refrigerator ad. My counters looked like counters. My mind looked like a list I could complete. That evening, the kids slept at my sister's because the sound of drawers closing is surprisingly loud, and I didn't want Nora's dreams punctured by hangers. I sat in the quiet with a notebook. I wrote down the shape of my week, then I wrote, "What do I want?" It felt dangerous and ordinary, like learning to leave a party when your feet start to hurt, not when the host looks bored. And then I wrote, "Revenge." The word fit in my hand like a tool. I wasn't going to smash anything. I don't do smashing. I do precise cuts and angled joints that hold. Revenge, in my vocabulary, would be clean and useful. I didn't want to go online and post a sob story. I wasn't going to slash tires or pour sugar anywhere. Those gestures make good television and bad life. I called Lila. "Can revenge be ethical?" I asked. "It can be aligned with your values," she said. "That's better than ethical. What does aligned mean for you?" "Truth," I said, "not performance and consequences prescribed by the agreements we made. Also, I'm done funding the thing that eats me." "Then stop funding it," Lila said. "And there's a different kind of consequence you might not have considered." She paused. "Curtis's gym is playing with permits. I know the clerk who processes them. The gym did a temporary wall that's been temporary for 2 years. If you happen to want to mention to the right people that public safety matters, that's not revenge. That's community service with timing." "I'm not going to frame him for anything," I said. "You don't have to," she said. "Liars always scatter crumbs. You just have to stop sweeping for them." The next morning, I took Nora to school early. She likes the empty playground. We watched a squirrel do that nervous stop-start run, like it's late for a meeting with a tree. On the way home, I stopped by City Hall. Not because I was going to pull strings, my job doesn't let me touch permits, but because public documents are public. Anyone can ask. I filled out a request for gym permits. The clerk, a man with reading glasses that slid down his nose, stamped it with a noise that feels like closure in a small way. At work, my boss, a woman named Dominique with a head for tactics and a soft spot for lunchtime chess, peeked into my cube. "You look like someone organized your pantry to survive a storm," she said. "We speak in metaphors where food and weather always end up in the same sentence." "Life is active," I said. "If you need to take the rest of the week, take it," she said. "Use your time, and if you don't know how to ask for what you need, I know how to guess." I took the day. I drove to a storage unit Mallory rented in town, the one we used when we redid the living room. On the lease, I was the primary. I could check the inventory. Inside were shelves with decor props, a ring light, boxes of sponsored kitchen gadgets sent in exchange for videos we finished and videos we didn't. A box at the back held a stack of Vail performance flyers with discount codes that spelled out our anniversary date. She used my favorite numbers because she knew I'd never forget them. Sentimental arithmetic used against me irritated me in a very specific way. That night, Mallory called. "I need to talk," she said. "I'm at Elise's." Elise is her friend who is always between leases. I picked up. "Talk." "It's not what you think." I laughed. I didn't mean to, but it happened. "Tell me what I think and I'll let you know." "I made a choice," she said. "I chose to feel alive. I knew you'd make a ledger out of it. You're doing it now. You're lining up the items." "I'm lining them up because that's how you see if you can afford anything," I said. "You chose an invoice. The cost arrives after the party." "I can fix this with you if you want to fix it," she said. "Curtis is complicated." "Curtis is simple," I said. "He wants to stand where he can be seen. I'm done being a camera." "You'll look small if you chase punishment," she said. "I'll look like someone who knows where the line is," I said. After I hung up, Brendan's email pinged. Subject, postnup, strong. The document stated that infidelity, documented by either a written admission or clear objective evidence, voided spousal support claims and assigned the house to me in full. We signed it after her channel's first brand pledge arrived, and she feared being on the hook if things went sideways. At the time, she'd said, "It's protection." I didn't know it would protect me. Brendan's note continued. "File for divorce now. Keep kids central. We can request a temporary order for possession of the house. Given you purchased pre-marriage and the postnup, this is straightforward. Also, I suggest a neutral forensic accountant for the veil transaction." Everything clicked into place with the cold beauty of a solved equation. This would hurt, but hurt unaccompanied by wobble feels like something you can walk on. Lila came by with a small plant in a pot shaped like a rocket. "Congratulations," she said. "You have blast-off." "You think I need decor?" I asked. "I think you need to remember that your house is yours. Also, your kids will like it." She set the pot near the window. "I talked to Paige," she added. "Who?" "Curtis's sister," Lila said. "She's the city clerk's counterpart in records. She's the person who knows when the toner runs out and who borrows the stapler. She is not a fan of her brother's museum of poor decisions. She said, and I'm quoting, "He thinks forms are for other people. If you ever wanted an unlikely ally, she's a waiting room with a magazine." I didn't trust that gift immediately, but I wrote down the name. On day 5, Mallory posted a photo on her channel of a hand on a coffee mug. The hand was not mine. The mug was familiar. She captioned it with something about bravery and coffee that sounded like a greeting card that can't handle full sentences. People commented with hearts and lightning bolts and a lot of "you deserve." I felt that old twitch of wanting to argue with strangers. I didn't. I took Nora to soccer. I listened to Micah describe the sound a dump truck makes when it's happy. On day 7, the permit packet arrived in my email. It included a complaint filed about the gym's emergency exit being blocked by a weight rack, a notice of a temporary wall, and a note that reinspection had been scheduled once the wall is removed. The checkmark next to "removed" was blank. The note was from 6 months ago. If I sent it anonymously to the fire marshal, that would make me a citizen. If I timed it for when Curtis hosted his big spring challenge weekend, that would make me a storyteller. I sent it that night, not anonymously. I wrote my name, my number, and the sentence. "I am concerned about compliance at Vail Performance. Lives are heavy." Brendan filed the divorce the next morning. He copied Mallory's attorney, a woman named Augusta who writes in short sentences that land like gavel taps. Before lunch, he emailed me a proposed temporary custody schedule. 50/50ths, 2 weeknights every other weekend. He underlined the line about no unrelated overnight guests when the children are present, for both of us. The list of legal norms felt like someone else's rules until I realized they protect against chaos. And protection against chaos is sometimes the closest you get to kindness when love is absent. That afternoon, I had a conversation in my head with my father. He's alive. He just lives 2 states away and likes to answer questions about life as if they were shop manual entries. In my head, he said, "Set torque to spec. Over-tighten and you strip the thread, under-tighten and the bolt rattles loose." I realized I'd been under-tightening my boundaries for years. The rattling I heard wasn't a problem I hadn't diagnosed. It was me ignoring the wrench. Curtis lasted exactly 2 weeks. I know because Mallory tried to re-enter the house with the kids' backpacks and a hollow smile that made my front teeth ache. She told me on the porch in a voice that tried to make the sentence bounce, "Curtis needs to focus on his competition team. I was a distraction." That's how people say they've been treated like a chair that didn't match a room. I nodded. She waited for something soft. I didn't have softness. I had clarity. "I'm sorry you're hurt," I said. "The schedule stands. The kid's bedtime is 8. She blinked. "That's all?" "That's all." People imagine revenge as fire. Mine felt like a pressure gauge finally reading 0. The first real move came at the Spring Wellness Fair. Mallory had a booth reserved, Home Harmony, and asked if I could bring the kids by for an hour so they could see Mom at work. I said yes because children deserve to see their parents competent. The fair was in a renovated mill with brick rows and big windows and banners that said things like community and balance. Curtis's gym had a huge rig set up in the center, a jungle of bars. There was a sign that said, "Try a dead hang, win a free month. Fire marshals love dead hangs the way cats love cucumbers." I walked the kids around, bought them smoothies that tasted like fruit arguing with spinach, and waited until a small cluster formed around the gym's display. Curtis did a pep talk about embracing the hard thing because comfort lies. The man loves a line that sounds like a tattoo. I scanned for the emergency exit. It had a kettlebell rack half blocking it. At 2:14 p.m., while Curtis demonstrated how to bail out of a failed squat, the fire marshal walked in with 2 inspectors and a clipboard that is probably older than I am. He looked at the exit. He looked at the weight rig. He looked at the temporary wall. He shook his head the way a teacher does when a student draws a dinosaur on a math test. He spoke to the expo organizer. Then he spoke to Curtis. Voices rose and then fell into that embarrassed hush crowds make when they're watching someone else get a ticket. Curtis tried to smile. I saw the face people make when they believed they were immune to rules and found out rules have very long arms. I didn't clap. I didn't whisper, "Gotcha." I walked to Mallory's booth. She had arranged jars and tiny towels like a museum of gentle objects. She looked at me like a battlefield requires mercy. I let the kids hug her and said, "We'll be back for pickup at 5. I didn't linger to offer help. My restraint felt like a new muscle warming up. That evening, a message pinged from an unfamiliar number. "This is Paige," it said. "I believe we're on the same side of public records. I met her at a coffee shop that closes at 6 because they have strong boundaries." Paige is 44, hair clipped short for efficiency, an expression like she's seen enough nonsense to inoculate a city. "I'm not here to commiserate," she said. "I'm here to give you 2 pieces of information. 1. Curtis used your garage as his storage because his own lease has a clause he didn't read. No flammable materials on site. If you happen to want his landlord to know about the solvent he keeps just for emergencies, I can tell you where the clause lives. 2. He is very bad at invoices. He has a habit of numbering them 1, 2, 3 each year. A client once used that to show he billed them twice for the same job. Keep everything you have in order. It matters." "Why are you helping me?" I asked. "Because I live in a small town and I'm tired of mopping up messes he insists are learning experiences." "He learns very little," she said. "Also, I admire clean revenge." I drove home and put the kids to bed with 2 stories because life felt large and needed extra ink. Then I opened my notebook and wrote, 1. House secured. 2. Post-nup triggered. 3. Custody normalized. 4. Public safety concerns addressed. 5. Financial clarity. The last category bothered me. Money has a way of distorting character in a courtroom. I wanted sunlight on the numbers so bright that even performative squinting would look silly. 2 days later, Augusta, the lawyer with short sentences, emailed a discovery request. It included a line asking for any recordings, photos, or electronic logs pertaining to alleged misconduct. I sent Brendan a clean package, timestamps, a few photos of the garage stool with the jacket and gloves, the devices log, and a copy of the sensor alert. No explicit anything, no humiliating shots. Just proof that a boundary had been crossed where it couldn't be mistaken for a metaphor. He replied with a thumbs-up icon and the sentence, "This is the correct amount of truth." The hearing for the temporary orders was uneventful by television standards and perfect by mine. We sat in benches that make you feel like a hymn is about to happen. The judge listened, nodded, read, nodded again. At the end, she said, "The children's schedule shall be as proposed. The residence remains with Mr. Ricks. Financial matters will proceed under the terms of the agreement until final adjudication. And let me say, respect matters. It looks like restraint." She looked up then, and her eyes landed on the 2 of us like a teacher on lab partners who nearly set the tabletop on fire. I could have hugged that judge for liking restraint. After court, in the hallway that smells like bleach and thyme, Mallory said, "You look proud of yourself." "I look like someone who didn't set a fire," I said. "You can interpret feelings, but you can't invent facts." "I didn't think you had it in you," she said. "You didn't think I had lines," I said. "We were both wrong." I won't pretend I walked away floating. My legs felt like they belonged to someone who had just realized muscles exist to prevent collapse. I got in my car, texted Lila one word, "Done," and she responded with a rocket emoji that matched the pot on my windowsill. I thought revenge would feel noisy. So far it felt like these clearings where I could see the next 3 steps ahead. Revenge wasn't the roar. Revenge was the planning, and the patience, and the way I stopped cushioning people who didn't care if I got bruised. Later that week, I added one more plan to my list, one that would break the part of Mallory's brand that runs on airbrushed truths. She had a home harmony showcase scheduled with a local magazine for homes with distinctive personal style. The editor emailed me months ago to schedule. Mallory forgot I was copied. The shoot was in our house because of course the magazine wanted the kitchen with the soft light and the open shelving I built. The editor's name was Henry, and he liked sentences like, "We celebrate authenticity," which means we celebrate photographs that look like candids that took 4 hours. I wrote Henry and said the shoot could proceed as scheduled. He replied with a happy cascade of exclamation marks. The day before the shoot, I put away anything that smelled like my personal grief. I left the house as is, lived in, the way it is when kids actually play with blocks instead of placing them artfully on a rug. I had also placed on the kitchen island a printed copy of the post-nup sections about house ownership, marked in yellow, and a letter in a neutral tone. Please contact me regarding the rights to use images of my property. I wasn't looking to humiliate. I was setting the reality on the counter where the camera would have to step around it. Public exposure properly done looks like simple clarity no one can crop out. The photographer arrived with lights. Henry arrived with enthusiasm. Mallory arrived with 3 baskets of props and a dress that made her look like a bowl of cherries had learned to speak. She saw the paper on the counter and frowned. "They can't shoot that," she said. "Then they'll shoot the space around it," I said. "The paper stays." "We could reschedule," Henry said carefully. "Editors don't like conflict. They like conflict shaped into narratives with tidy captions." "No," I said. "Shoot, I have the kids at 4. You end by 3. Mallory glared. She is skilled at glares that arc like a whip and leave people apologizing for existing. I didn't flinch. The photographer worked around the paper. Henry smiled like he was grateful conflict looks good in light. When the piece ran online a week later, it featured 12 photos of our house. On the island, in the background of 2 shots, there it was, the yellow highlight catching afternoon sun. The caption under one photo read, "The owner, a municipal analyst and woodworker, built the shelving himself." Owner, not owners. Words matter. Mallory posted the spread on her channel with the caption, "Grateful for rooms that hold us." Comments poured in. I didn't read them. My revenge wasn't a scoreboard, it was the shading on a map. If you looked at our life from above, the boundaries were finally visible. This could be enough, I thought. Then Paige texted, "Ready for the second movement?" I didn't know we were playing symphonies. I said yes anyway. Paige's text read like sheet music. "Ready for the second movement?" I texted back yes, and put the phone face down on the counter the way you set a nail before the hammer lands. Paige called. "Curtis signed his lease with North River Properties last spring," she said. Clause 8B. No storage of flammable solvents or adhesives. He keeps a 5-gallon drum of finishing solvent in a back closet for emergencies. The landlord doesn't know, and because he blocked the exit again, he's already on thin ice. "I'm not opening any closets I don't rent," I said. "You don't have to," she said. "I've seen the drum. I can give the landlord my name. You give them your complaint about the blocked exit." 2 sources reads like truth instead of a grudge. The next morning, I wrote a short note to North River Properties. I attached the public records packet about the exit and the scheduled re-inspection, and I included Paige's contact information because I wasn't building a paper tiger. The property manager called me within an hour. "We take safety seriously," she said. "Thank you." Her voice had the crispness of someone who knows how to be fair and decisive and isn't impressed by charm muscles. Paige texted, "Ready for the second movement?" I said yes. She called with leverage. "Curtis's lease bans flammable solvents. He keeps a 5-gallon drum. Pair that with his blocked exit and the fire marshal's calendar, and the timing writes itself." I sent the landlord a note with public records attached and Paige as corroboration. At Micah's pickup, Brendan emailed, "Forensic accountant retained. Karen Toll wanted joint accounts, brand payments, and any transfers to Vail Performance. I organized everything." Lila arrived with watermarking so granular a raindrop would sign. "Mallory forwards your docs," she said. "Let's salt them. We created 5 versions of a media use agreement for my house. Only Mallory and I got version 3. No third-party trainers shall offer instruction on the premises. I emailed it about future shoots. She replied with a single dot. 2 days later, North River posted cure or quit on the gym door. The fire marshal said a surprise inspection. Karen called. Receipts are tidy. The $4,800 to Vail is a retainer with no invoice. Dissipation under the post-nup. Cash withdrawals sync with posts pushing gym discounts. I'll list them. Nora said, We're making pasta bake at Mom's new place. Smells like oranges. Cozy. Augusta, Mallory's lawyer, proposed splitting savings, confirming the house, shared legal custody, and mutual non-disparagement. Brendan replied, Narrow the clause, and added, No unrelated overnight guests during custodial time. At noon, Lila forwarded an email. Workshop idea Home Harmony X Vail Performance. From Curtis to a brand, CCing Mallory. Attachment, media_use_agreement_v3.pdf. Clause 4, verbatim. Caught, she wrote. I sent it to Brendan and to the brand. This concerns my property and is unsigned. No event is authorized. Their reply, we had no idea there were unresolved rights. Shut the door. Sunday with Brendan. Global resolution, kids set, financials favor you. Remaining public statements, third-party interference, your restraint is leverage. What about Curtis? Trespass, conversion, false light if he markets your house, options with consequences. That night I built a jig. Repetition steadied me. Nora sanded and hummed. Monday brought letters. The gym's insurer demanded safety proof. An inspector posted violations. The brand withdrew until ownership, legal rights, and safety concerns are resolved. Mallory texted, Can we talk? At the River Cafe, she asked me not to contact brands. This is how I make money. I wrote one brand about my house, I said. Stop pitching it, and I stopped writing. It was Curtis. He's under pressure. Pressure doesn't move exits, I said. You chose him. He's your problem. You sound cold. I stopped paying for other people's fires. 2 days later, Brendan sent an addendum. Curtis would sign a consent decree, no commercial use of my property, no contact with me or the kids, and donate $7,500 to the Firefighters Benevolent Fund in lieu of a suit. Page texted, he'll fold. The confrontation happened not in court, but a mediator's room. Ravi ran the agenda. Brendan slid in our packet, post-nup excerpts, Karen's list, the unique clause email, inspection notices, the donation proposal. Curtis snarled, You set me up. What? You walked into my garage. You forwarded my contract. You blocked an exit, I said. Real life is receipts. Mallory said, I'll accept the dissipation credit. I won't contest the house. When I move to a 2-bedroom, I'd like to revisit an extra overnight. When you do, we'll review, Brendan said. Augusta read the decree. Proportionate. Curtis signed. Mallory signed. I signed. The check cleared. The fire chief posted a smiling crew with a novelty check from Vail Performance. 3 weeks later, the decree arrived. No spousal support, custody and tidy blocks. Dissipation credit to me. Brendan wrote, You're done. Exposure kept working. A magazine piece on safety, our kitchen again, the local paper on the gym's donation and compliance. No mention of me. We planted a pear tree. Nora hung a tag. Fruit later. Micah planted a stick, so the tree has a friend. Karen found a Lake Lodge weekend, 2 breakfasts a day, staggered spa slots. Another dissipation line Augusta didn't fight. The excuse machine in my head powered down. Mallory collected jackets and asked if I was seeing anyone. I'm seeing my kids, my projects, my time, I said. Small, she said. Large in the right directions, I answered. A block party returned. Washers game, lemonade, numbers etched on bikes, the fire crew honking at the pear tree. Curtis jogged by, just another man on a run. Karen's final accounting landed like a solved equation. Assets divided, credits applied, taxes noted, balances zeroed, a small refund to me. Paige texted a trivia scoreboard. Our team off by 1 on top. Before bed, I checked the tree's hard green nubs. Fruit later, a promise I liked. No speeches, just a locked door, a quiet garage, and a life held by ink, patience, and the refusal to cushion people who like landing on others. Mallory and I trade calendars, not philosophies. A winter follow-up on the library's Make and Mend ran a photo of kid-built birdhouses captioned, Built by hands that will build other things. I taped it inside a cabinet. I slept with no alerts humming, boundaries tuned, revenge finished with clean edges, life the right size again. Thank you, friends.